Good evening, everybody. This is Jeff J. Brown in beautiful Shenzhen, China, for another China Rising Radio Sinoland podcast based on today's article, which is, of course, on the China Rising website. There are lots of links in this article, and so if you can get to it, it's well worth accessing for further study, reflection, and getting informed about what's really going on in the world. This article is entitled Trump, Kissinger, Xi, Putin, and Duterte, Connecting the Dots and What It All Means for Us. And there's a picture in the article of Henry Kissinger talking with Chinese President Xi Jinping on December 2nd, and he was actually sent to China by President-elect Donald Trump to talk about future relations. And that's a lot about what this article is covering. So let's get started. Any questions about differences between a Trump and Clinton II presidency can be laid to rest this week. In astonishing fashion, President-elect Donald Trump has conducted his pre-presidency with dizzying effect. Trump immediately confirmed he fully intends to pull out of the Darth Vader-esque and Orwellian-named Trans-Pacific Partnership, what a joke, also entitled TPP, a Western Empire confabulation meant to block China's increasingly and historical leading role in its own backyard, East Asia. As if to confirm this, on November 14th, Chinese President Xi Jinping, affectionately known as XJP, and Trump talked on the phone to discuss future cooperation between the world's two biggest economies, claiming mutual respect. Queen Clinton would already be moving little models of naval fleets to the South China Sea with her shuffleboard stick on the global strategy map in the Pentagon's war room. Trump also uncharacteristically met early on with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, one of America's two occupied satrap Asian lapdogs, along with South Korea. He has threatened both of these countries that they better expect to pay cash on the barrelhead for the 80,000 American centurions camped out across their lands. On November 15th, Trump and the hysterically demonized president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, talked on the phone discussing cooperation. Heaven forbid! If Clinton had been elected, she'd be installing a, quote, press here to nuke Moscow, end of quote, button in the Oval Office. On November 27th, Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak had a chat on the telephone to discuss 2017. Malaysia has been demonized by the U.S. and Israel for its three fearless, guilty rulings of war crimes and crimes against humanity in its own Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Commission against Bush, Blair and Company and the Zionist state. If you think there is no connection to these three rulings citing Western and Israeli genocide and the statistical improbability of three downed Malaysian airliners, MH370, MH17, and QZ8501, over 9 months in 2014, then you are living in mainstream la-la land. Maybe Najib touched a nerve when he talked to Trump, because 5 days later, on December 1st, Trump said at a celebration rally in Ohio, and I quote, "We will pursue a new foreign policy that finally learns from the mistakes of the past. We will stop looking to topple regimes and overthrow governments, folks. America's international relations goal is stability, not chaos, because we want to rebuild our country." End of quote. Trump simply and honestly admits that this is what the United States has been doing nonstop since 1898, starting with the false flag USS Maine, to expand its empire from North America to every inhabited continent on planet Earth. Yes, even including doormat, quote, allies, end of quote, Australia and Western Europe. Trump is meeting with world leaders and talking with them on the phone without even consulting that bastion of Western empire and genocide, the Department of State, abbreviated DOS, once Hillary Clinton's fiefdom, no small coincidence. He has talked with Kazakhstan's President Nursultan Nazarbayev, a strong ally of Russia and China, and staunch member of the Shanghai Security Organization, abbreviated SCO. He and Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif talked, another strong ally of China, with Trump even proposing to visit the place. Barack Obama wouldn't touch foot in Pakistan, undoubtedly worried about getting hit by American drones that have killed and maimed untold thousands of innocent women, children, aged, and youth across the world. Just this week, Trump invited President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines to come visit him in Washington. Duterte has radically changed the geopolitical landscape in Asia and beyond, to the detriment of Western tyranny. The whole pattern to this seeming hectic schedule of contacts took shape yesterday, December 2nd, when Trump sent Uber-Sino-Schmoozer Henry Kissinger calling to Beijing to meet with ex-JP to talk about bilateral relations. While not as momentous as Dr. K's exploratory visit to China in 1971, to plan for President Nixon's history-changing meeting with Chairman Mao Zedong in 1972, this week is a not-so-unintentional, symbolic gesture for both presidents straddled across the Pacific. I think it's safe to say that they will be meeting next year and hopefully cut a deal on trade, finance, and the American-generated brouhaha in the South China Sea. On the same day, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen telephoned Trump to congratulate him on his victory. Without the supercilious hand of the DOS, Department of State, to interfere, he took the call, setting off a mini tempest in a teacup on the Potomac. Why? Because the last U.S. president to talk directly to a Taiwanese leader was Jimmy Carter back in the 1970s. The Western mainstream media tried to make a big deal out of it, while Trump tweeted that, quote, "Interesting how the U.S. sells Taiwan billions of dollars of military equipment, but I should not accept a congratulatory call." End of quote. A rationale which just makes sense. Baba Beijing, China's leadership, took it in stride, and the foreign ministry saved Trump's face by declaring it was a trick by Taiwan. It's already yesterday's news over here. The imperial mandarins in Hegemonyville, D.C., are apoplectic about Trump's independent, free of the Department of State geopolitics. But here's the deal. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, or North Korea's Kim Jong-un, two-thirds of Bush 43's derisory, quote, axis of evil, end of quote, could call, and I bet Trump would pick up the phone to see what they have to say. He's a businessman at heart, and is just not copacetic to refuse to talk to anyone about biz, even one's competitors. Donald Trump's cabinet nominations are not encouraging. Waterboard King for the CIA, KKK for the Attorney General, Mad Dog for the Department of Defense, Goldman Sachs for Treasury, Litmus Test Anti-Choice for the Supreme Court, and others is enough to give even the most thick-skinned pundit pause. But we have to remind ourselves that these posts have to be approved by the U.S. Senate, which is more right-wing and neocon than Attila the Hun. The long and the short of it is he doesn't have a lot of choice. He is smart enough to know that the last thing he needs is not get his cabinet confirmed pronto after July 20th, 2017, and get down to, well, business. If Trump will work with Putin and Xi, pull out of the TPP, and get the CIA/Gladio Mafia to curtail its endless color revolutions and hybrid warfare, and do nothing else, then my vote for him was worth it. In the process, here's to hoping that he does not suffer the fate of John F. Kennedy, a palpable probability. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sinoland, signing out, and have a wonderful weekend. Good night.